Previously on the Seventh Valkyrie, Meridia's arrival on the battlefield bolsters the Edaran defense, but they're still vastly outmatched and outnumbered. A stunning new arrival on the battlefield is about to drastically change things, though. Next on the Seventh Valkyrie. Under the bloody white hood, she could not see his face, but with that hulking frame, the draw strength to bend iron, and aim to match, she knew exactly who had come to their aid. The false wolf. The call of soldiers pierced the night behind her. Reinforcements streaming down the staircase at last. Out on the dock, the wolf dropped his bow and drew 2 hand-and-a-half blades that he spun like other men would spin daggers. Then he glanced towards the Edaran formation and stared straight at Meridia, red hair making her easy to pick out from the crowd. Reading his intentions, Meridia tossed her bow to another soldier and drew her daggers, barking a string of quick orders to her men, who parted around her. It had been Val's idea, but she was in command, and the charge was her call. A moment passed, then 2, as Meridia waited, giving the men just a little bit longer to get down the stairs, but she couldn't wait forever. And as the first soldiers reached the bottom of the stairs, Meridia roared, and with the cry of "Lireshka Vren!" echoing out from a full phalanx, the Edaran forces charged out from their defensive position towards the Freelanders. The false wolf lunged into the fray faster than falling rain, snapping into 3 looping strikes that took 4 lives in a heartbeat. Meridia and her corps crashed against the Thwarp's defensive line a half-second later, and steel crashed against stone and ice. Fire and arrows flew, and even with her shoulder still aching, Meridia flowed into her own whip-sharp rhythm of battle, spinning into the fray beside the false wolf. More than once, Meridia had lain awake, reliving her confrontations with him, turning his movements over and over to study his speed, his strength, his techniques, his efficiency. He had beaten her 3 times and escaped her once, and yet he seemed to think nothing of it other than pithy comments tossed over his shoulder. That didn't sit right with Meridia. At first, she had pushed her losses off to bad luck or a home field advantage or the element of surprise. He obviously knew the Edaran fighting style well, she'd explained to herself, and that had given him an edge. Anything to avoid admitting that, for now, she couldn't even imagine a way to beat him. But in the thick of battle, when pride was the last thing on her mind, she'd let herself follow his lead, let her style merge with and complement his, and what happened next was poetry and violence. Every step he took created space for him or suffocated it for his enemies. Every stroke either killed or created the next opening, but not always for him. More often, the clash of his blade left Thwarps off balance and unguarded, left shattered stone turned to blinding dust, turned column of ice to piercing shards, and from there any soldier worth a wage could have cleaned up the scraps. And Meridia was worth far more than her wage. Together, the 2 white cloaks danced along the bursting battlefield of blossoming powers and spurting blood, until they were both splattered in crimson and still dancing, a pair of bloody panthers feasting in a henhouse. The charge of the Edarans lasted just over a minute, a blink of an eye and also a lifetime in the timeless fury of battle. And then the tide had turned, and the cliffside force of Thwarps began to flee. Some raced back along the docks towards the cliffs, calling out to landing boats and wave runners for help that would not come. Others dove into the water, where only the Sestrans and the lucky escaped a hail of Edaran arrows. The most determined and experienced Thwarps were able to break off towards the river, though their stragglers fell in 1s and 2s as Edarans fired after them, and Meridia was quick to follow, scavenging another bow and turning to demand a set of arrows from the reinforcements. Some Thwarps were lightning fast, with gift-enhanced abilities, but others could be caught and killed, and tonight every single body that fell mattered. But as she started to bellow orders to pursue the fleeing Thwarps, the false wolf stepped into her line of sight, and she changed gears, fast. "Well, you certainly took your fucking time in showing up," She walked up and shoved him hard enough that he took a step back. I did show up, though. He stood back up straight. I had to swing by the laundry to make sure I didn't blow your cover. For now, they just think I'm another Light Corps member who's helped Meridia Firebow save them from certain doom. Do you mind letting that be the story for now? If you take another swing at me, they might start asking questions. And a lot of those guys got a good look at me the first time you and I fought. You and I, we're going to have a long chat about you and the Light Corps when this is over. But you're right, we've got bigger problems. Every officer out there on that barge is dead except for me. Arrogant bastard thought he had the fucking Machine King in his pocket. Yosin is dead. Yeah, cut to pieces like the rest of them. One stroke. Fuck. Krona had something out there. Someone. Fuck, Val, I've never seen anything like that. Not in the Borderlands or the worst thwarp havens of Mandus. I've never even heard of something like that, at least not since fucking myths around the war. She cut a fucking battlecraft in half. Right in half. False Wolf gritted his teeth. I should have expected he'd have someone at that level. Fort breakers, city breakers, world breakers, that's what we called them. One of them could change an entire battle. And you can consider this battle changed. Reen could hold any normal thwarp attack, or make them bleed like hell while they came through, even against the full force of the old city. I mean, we ran simulations for 10 times the numbers, but that monster. I saw flashes, I wasn't sure, but I saw something happening. I think they're breaking through the riverside stairs. If she can cut through the barricades, through the formations, we're helpless. It's going to be a blood riot. The False Wolf nodded. Right, so my first priority is to kill her. Then we can focus on Krona. You? By yourself? What happened to you and I being a team? We are on the same side, Meridia, but unfortunately you just got promoted to acting High Commander of Reen. What with everyone else being dead and all, we need somebody to lead the battlefront. Meridia became acutely aware then that there were men around them. Men who had fallen into formation and now looked expectantly, almost reverently, towards the two members of the Light Corps. They were waiting for orders, and only the sounds of war all around them guarded Val and Meridia's voices. Fucking hell. I guess I'm in charge. Fuck. You good? Am I good? What do you fucking think? I'm freezing cold. We're under siege by Krona, 4 families and their fucking weapon out there, and every second officer out here is either a turncoat, underqualified, or fucking dead in the ocean. I'm tired. My shoulders hurt. I had to drop my favorite armor into the sea so I don't drown, and I think I'm missing half of my hair. Yeah, you are. Caught a stray fireball, I think. But despite everything, as he looked at her, he almost had some semblance of a faint smile. And despite herself, Meridia laughed, running a hand across the near-bald scalp on one side of her head. It hurt to the touch, like a bad sunburn, and the other half of her hair was matted and slick with half-frozen blood and wet earth. Could be worse. We've got bigger problems. Alright, we need to fall back, give the Thwarps what territory they've already claimed, and focus on getting out the civilians. Then we form up, hold for reinforcements from Central, even if that takes weeks. And when they come, we take the city back, 1 block at a time if we have to. She turned to him. Val, we can retreat all we want, but we can't defend shit if that demon thwarp is cutting our formations in half. Do you really think you can just walk up and kill him? Well, I'll probably not just walk up. But everyone dies, Meridia. Everybody dies. Bloodletter Zendar, he died to a knife in the throat. Stormbreaker Veraneon couldn't survive a dose of poison. Nightbringer Ward fell with a caved-in skull, and even Apostolos died just like any other man, bleeding out on the sand. Yeah, well, one difference there is we had the Iron Wolf for all of those. Fair point. Right now, you and I, and a couple thousand men is all we've got. And I guess we'll have to make do. Meridia looked around, seeing the men behind her, all looking up for a hero. No matter how strong you were, no matter how proud, it was easy to follow a symbol. It was less easy when you were that symbol, and realized, standing under the mantle of Firebow, of Light Corps, of High Commander of Reen, that every hero before you had just been a human. Well, all except one. Meridia made the sign of the wolf. Okay, Val, what do you need from me? I can send men with you? It won't help. I just need you to tell me where evidence lockup is. I was able to cobble together a few replacement swords and a bow, but they're no substitute for my own gear, which you guys very graciously have been keeping safe. Well, it's on the 5th level cliffside. Is that really all you need? You lead the retreat. You stand for your people. You be the leader they need with the brain that you have. I'll handle the dirty work. Meridia met his eyes and then nodded. Lireshka Vrenval. He looked back to her, nodded, and then sprinted off along the wharf, up the stairs, and past the men who watched him go. There was a confused murmur, and someone nearby finally mustered the voice to speak up. Protector Firebow! Orders! Meridia turned to him. That's Acting High Commander Meridia Firebow to you, soldier, she boomed, loud enough to cut through the sounds of battle. Most of our officers are dead. There are turncoats among the Mandarians, but we'll root them out later. For now, our job is simple. We protect our families, our brothers, our sisters, our mothers and fathers, our neighbors, until the city is clear of every friend and family member you have that is currently facing a death that they do not deserve. The men were nodding. They had already seen too many friends die tonight. A chance to save anyone, that was something they could hold on to. Meridia stepped forward, feeling her blood beginning to boil again, as she found the highest-ranking soldiers and officers and arranged them into battalion leaders. They would divide themselves into units and then subdivide into fighting groups from there. But as she prepared to lead them at triple time up the stairs, she stopped, eyes on the ground before her. She knelt down, looking into the dead, wide eyes of a boy who couldn't have been more than 15 years old. He'd had a hole blown in him, and what remained of him stank and oozed. A look of horror and fear stuck forever on his face. She closed his eyes, drew the oversized longbow from his grasp, and looked out across the battlefield, where countless other bodies of their brothers burned and bled. Her men had fallen silent as she knelt, leaving only the crackling fires and the distant clamor of war. But then Meridia rose, ignoring the pain, the exhaustion, the winter chill, the blood and the burns. Men of Edaran, I do not demand your presence. Any soldier who has seen too much death to carry on can join the civilians and flee, and I will look the other way. But if you choose to run, do it now. because as I climb these stairs, I leave behind me turncoats and cowards and young fools out of their depth lured by glory. Into that hell above us, and ahead of us I bring the ones who stand. And we will stand until our people are safe, or none of us remains. She turned, facing the stairs, and after a moment, out from behind her came the steady drumbeat of spears and swords on shields. But there were no footsteps of fleeing deserters, only the steady drum as the soldiers showed their readiness and devotion. Without another word, Meridia breathed in and out and led the remnants of the Edaran forces into the heart of the new city. Hey there! If you're hearing this, it means you're listening to the public version of this episode. I appreciate you taking the time and your interest in the series. It really helps the algorithm, it helps us grow. But if you are enjoying the show, maybe take a look over at our Patreon. We have uncut versions of the early episodes, access to new chapters before they're released for the general public, and you can shape the future of the series by deciding on new merch drops, bonus content, and more. You can get started for free at patreon.com/Seventh Valkyrie. That's patreon.com/7THVALKYRIE. Hope to see you there.